and welcome. Thanks for joining early this week. Number 200. I didn't do anything special for 200. Because why? I'll do a special one for 201 or for 206 or something. But anyway, it is number 200 this week. 200 of these things we've done together. You and I. What's happening? Also kind of a unique morning because I don't normally put out like demo videos on Sundays, but this pedal came out and I was a little late getting my video done for it because I've just been swamped doing stuff. And anyways, I finished it late last night and I thought, well, I'll just put it out this morning. So if you haven't seen it, don't go because I want you here. But check it out later. I don't know. This is the Crossfire from Crazy Tube Circuits. It's a, what should I say? Fender in a box with a tube screamer. Of course, the classic Stevie Ray Vaughan tonal recipe. And if you've got a kind of a, I don't know, lifeless clean or a neutral clean, say the bass channel of a Marshall 4-hole style amp, or maybe the normal channel of an AC30 needs a little like Fender character sometimes for certain sounds, could work really well. And the screamer side, of course, sounds great just pushing an amp, if it's dirty or if it's clean or whatever, for your metal stylings or whatever it is that you do with to tighten and all that. You know how guys do that. I'm still getting it together here because it's early for me. I'm not an early guy. You guys probably all get up at like 5 a.m. and stuff, don't you? Get everything done. You've accomplished a ton of things before noon. That's not me. Like I say, I finished that video late last night. Anyways, I've got an actual gig at a studio today, session really. So I had to start early. That's why I'm here early. But I'm excited about that. I'm excited to go play music with people. What else is happening? Oh, this week I put out the video for the Pantheon Deluxe Dual Overdrive from the nice folks at Wampler. And that's a real cool, I guess blues breaker based design, like the old Marshall blues breaker pedal. And I always really liked the blues breaker pedal, as well as the Governor, the original Governor, and even the second version of the like remember the ones they came out with that were like, they kind of look like Ibanez sound tanks, but they were gold or whatever. They were much more robust in their case than a sound tank, but it was a similar shape. So, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I just remember them kind of being sort of, I don't know, like little orbs. But that version of the Governor sounded really good. I had one of those. And Eric says that he liked my demo for that pedal. Thanks. Yeah, it is. The pedal is on the bright side, but it's not in a bad way ever. It just has that sparkle on the top end, like it's not like a cutting, searing bright. It's more like a sparkly bright, and probably would sound great, with some like modulated delay, some reverb. I used a little bit of reverb on the video, but like some compression. You could get other things out of it besides just the blues thing for sure. Yeah, Rick says, any Kemper profile suggestions? I'm not really in that world that much, but my friend Michael Britt out in Nashville, he always did nice ones. I thought really good. Who else does good ones? Top Jimmy had the really good Van Halen ones. Really pretty cool. I don't know too many others, to be honest, of the professional profile creators. What else we got here? Magic Man says that he got a couple guitars this week. What'd you get? What'd you get? I'm wondering if there will be any new OD circuit in the future. Is everything done? No, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's ways that you can, like stuff we've worked on at Sur for different things. It's kind of a unique design, I think. I think you might see more folks go in the kind of like doing actual like simulating amp circuits in pedals, that kind of thing, more, which would be like unique. Maybe the first pedals that really attempted to do that with the Bogners, and they were pretty successful, you know, with the red and the blue. Turn down my screen a bit here because it looks awfully bright. And my big light over here as well. Just get a little less harsh. There's somebody there in the super chat. T-Top. Thanks for the super chat, my friend. Happy 200. Thoughts on a Line 6 Stomp XL as well as an all-in-one solution for fly dates? I mean, great. If you like the form factor, I mean, I'm sure you can always add expression to it, right? And if you know, you just need simple chains. Because is the Stomp XL just the big one with a single processor, so you can't do like the crazy, you know, tons of effects, but you can get some great sounds happening still. I mean, the Stomp is so underrated, honestly. It's probably one of my favorite things that Line 6 has made. It's so useful. Yeah, I'd have no reservations about recommending that for a, you know, a fly thing, or, you know, who knows? There's probably people out there and that's their rig, you know, for pro stuff. What else have we got here? Is there a way to make a tight amp looser? Let me think about that. I mean, there's probably mods that somebody can do to it. I don't know what the filtering's like. You could probably make it a little squishier with different filtering, but it's like there's a lot of gain stages in that amp. So let me think about, you know, looser. I mean, it's, you know, it's a good question for a tech, and I would say it's probably down to, you know, filtering, and you could add a little more bass probably in the preamp, and a key spot or two that would probably, you know, make it a little, like if you push more bass through the preamp, that tends to make amps looser. What makes amps tighter, this is a generalization, but one of the things is if you lean out the front end, the amount of bass going through the preamp, which isn't to say that the amp can't have good low end, because folks will make it up in different, like for instance, your 5150 has a resonance knob on it. That's bass essentially in the power amp. And so folks will make it up by either making a, you know, fixed depth, or like with that, you can, you know, but you could add, probably you could change a cap or two in the front end, and that would make the bottom end bigger, pushing through the preamp, and have the effect of making it a little looser. You know, when I think of, like, to me, JCM 800 aren't that tight, and yet they're not that gainy. That's always a problem I have with them stock, is that they're a little anemic as far as the gain goes, and they're a little loose. So you get this combination of a little farty and not super, you know, aggressive. And but yeah, by just changing a cap or two, you can actually change that quite a bit. So anyway, I digress. I would have a tech look at it that's really competent and see if there's like one cap you can add or something, make a little more bass in the front end. Tellyman, there in the super chat, says happy 200. Thanks, man. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. I do. Ever tried a Ceriatone? No, I haven't, but I've been intrigued lately, like about a couple, which like the Trainwreck one. After trying that fellow's Liverpool that I had here for a while, I thought, God, it'd be nice to have one of these. I wonder how close the Trainwreck comes, or the Ceriatone, excuse me, to the actual Trainwreck. And then also like the high watt, because I had that high watt here, and it's like, oh, I wonder if I could, you know, like, I wonder how good their high watt is. But I have heard them. My friend Ichiro in Japan, my guitar partner in crime, who I've gigged with Tyoshi Negabuchi over there, he has one of the Dumbly ones, and he used it on tour. So I heard it every day in rehearsal and stuff. It did sound good. Yeah. What else we got? Eric says congratulations on 200 videos. Thanks, man. 200 live streams. Was that like not quite 4 years of, you know, and almost every week. It's been pretty consistent. I mean, there's been a few that I've had to miss, but other than that, pat myself on the back. What else we got here? Let's see. Looking through the chat. Oh, that's interesting. I remember those. 77 Ibanez Rickenbacker bass copy you say you got, and you're having a blast playing it. That's cool. Man, they made some good ones. My Destroyer sure is fun. I love that thing. I got together with Al Estrada, I don't know, about a week ago or so. And he brought by a couple guitars. He's got an Ibanez Rocket Roll and an Ibanez Destroyer like mine. His Destroyer is quite a bit heavier than mine. It's interesting. And the V is quite light. And he actually likes the V more. But both really cool. And I found out recently that Eddie actually had a V and it was stolen. He had a Les Paul and it was stolen. Then he got a V and it was stolen. Poor guy. He had a lot of guitars stolen. It's not like he had a ton of money back in the day. But anyways, he had a Rocket Roll and I saw a picture of him like 74, 75 with that guitar. It's really cool looking. Yep. Yeah. Ryan says, loved it. SRV would have approved. I'm glad you liked it, man. Thanks. I did a little video this morning. If those who are just joining haven't seen, for this guy, the Crossfire from Crazy Tube Circuits, which is a Stevie Ray Vaughan flavored pedal, but it'll do more. And I tried to show that in the video. There's other things you can do with it for sure. I almost feel like I should have done like a part, now that I'm thinking about it, with like some compression and chorus or something with the, showing the sparkly kind of, maybe like Robbie Blunt tones or something like that, because I think it would probably be helpful for sounds like that as well. Yeah. Yep. Who's there in the super chat? Oh, that's T Top again. I've cost you an effing fortune. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'd love to hear Pete with a Ceriatone. Well, from what I hear, I think that they sound pretty good. They seem like they're really well made. I mean, it's kind of an amp is a sort of a box of parts, and definitely the components matter and stuff. But I've never heard anybody say that. I know they don't use like super esoteric, crazy caps or anything, but I've never heard anything but positive comments about the build quality. And like generally people are really happy with them. I haven't heard like, oh, this thing's a piece of crap or anything. I've never heard anybody say that, like on the interwebs, for whatever that's worth. But yeah. I like boosting the PT15 with a pedal, tightens up the amp a bit while adding more gain. Yeah, I mean, I basically do the same thing. I boost it with trying to figure out, like on my board, what drives I'm taking for this tour coming up. Right now I've got the Cornerstone Gladio preamp on there, as well as my Archer, and they seem to provide a nice kind of contrast. The Gladio does a nice thing in front of the clean channel of my amp, but it also kicks the drive channel in a cool way. That's seems nice for solos and stuff. It's a little more aggressive sounding than the Archer does that big fat low mid boost thing that they tend to do for big fat single notes. But I was thinking like it might be nice to have a drive that's a bit more like aggressive. Like even a Tube Screamer is more upper mid than a Klon type to me. I don't know if you guys have found that, but Tube Screamer leans out the lows more and has a bit more sort of an upper mid voice, whereas I'd say the Klon types are mid mids or low mids, and kind of they make the single notes really big. Yeah, so it's nice to have a couple different ones. Yeah. Did Pete talk about his gig today? It's actually kind of on the down low, so I can't really say what it is, but it's good. I don't even know when it's coming out, but I'm just gonna keep it on the down low until next week or something, if I can talk about it then. It might have already been released to the world by that point. So, but it's neat. I'm honored to be involved. It should be fun. Who else we got here? Is there somebody up there that I missed in the super chat? Whoops. A Donner portable heavy metal amp, guitar, headphones, FX Chorus rechargeable mini pocket amplifier for $25, says Beer Hounds Beer Reviews. He got that this week. That's cool. And let's see, Cedric's in France. He says hi from France. I love that place. Might try and take a little stop over there while I'm over that way. In February, maybe we'll see. Thanks for 200, says Rico. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Hey, thank you guys for this. Is always fun for me. Really fun. I do look forward to it every week still. Thank you for the super chat, man. And Steven, happy 200. Thanks, man. Jeez, you guys are too kind. Keep the coffee flowing around here. Any ideas for a great 335 type guitar for around 1,000? You know, I mean, I think that doesn't Epiphone kind of have that market sort of sewing up? I'm trying to think if there's other 335s that I've seen that are on the lower end of the price spectrum that sound really cool. I really like the 339s too, the Gibsons. And didn't they make one like a 335 or no, sorry, a 337 or something? I can't remember, but there was one that was kind of like sort of plain with like dots, didn't have the big inlays, and I don't remember those being really expensive, but I doubt you'd find one used for $1,000. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? It's like a smaller body 335. And they made a couple different versions called 339. Yogi used to play one. I loved it. It was really a nice looking guitar. Looked kind of like a 355. It had gold hardware and it was cherry red and had block inlays and an ebony board. It was kind of fancy. Bigsby, I think, cool guitar. Like, I always really like that guitar. But I digress. For 335 for around 1,000, I mean, it seems like Epiphone's probably a good way to go. And they look kind of cool because, like, the Epiphone headstock sort of works with those because of casinos and stuff. Like in my head, it's like, you know, back in the day, you saw those semi-hollow Epiphones with the Epiphone headstock. John Lennon, of course, playing one and stuff. And so there's something about that guitar. Whereas when I see an Epiphone headstock on like a Les Paul, I always think budget, you know. But I don't necessarily think that when I see, you know what I mean. They made a Pelham Blue one. Was it maybe a Noel Gallagher signature thing? Maybe. I believe it was Pelham Blue, an Epiphone. That's a cool looking guitar. So maybe look at those. What's the LP style guitar in the background? The red one back there is Steve Stevens. Yeah, that's a Steve Stevens, a Nags Steve Stevens guitar that I've had for a very long time. It's kind of my hot rod guitar with Alnico pickups, like hot Alnico. Like if I want to play something that really crunches the front end of the amp with the pickups or whatever, I'll play that guitar because it's got the Rebel Yell pickups in it. So I think of it as my hot rod Les Paul. Yeah, for that specific thing. Just watched the Crossfire vid this morning. The highlight was definitely the licks and arrangement. Thanks, man. It's a really cool pedal. It was fun doing that. I came up with that one fast. I always like that kind of house is rocking, you know, the rock and roll power chord fifth where you add the sixth thing with your pinky or whatever. And I always like that kind of like his playing on how houses are rocking. Don't bother knocking. Houses are rocking. Don't bother. Come on in. So I guess it's that sort of vibe. I liked when he did stuff like that. Thoughts on a 410 cabinet? I have an orange rocker with 2 10s. Everyone comments how good it sounds. Yeah, the focus you're saying, that pedal show was talking about speakers like that. Yeah, I would say that's a good word, focus. They have a nice focus to them, tight, fast. They're fast, they're articulate, great tone. Love the Celestion Greenback and 10-inch Celestion Gold. Both those 10s are terrific sounding speakers. Really nice. Thanks again, Rico, for the super chat. I appreciate that very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I might have already highlighted you, but I'm going to highlight you guys again because you guys are so nice. Thanks for the super chats. Let's see. What do we got here? Ceriatones do sound good. Components are really good. Even the transformers are not that bad at all. That's generally the vibe that I get too. It seems like, yeah, these are good amps for the money. I mean, I do think it's kind of, you know, like it would be nice if just from a ethical perspective, if they didn't try and copy amps that were made recently. Like, you know, I think he makes clones of like Friedman's, and Friedman's are of course based, you know, largely, you know, in Marshall and then tweaked. But I think it's cool when we can get away from like you know, like, yeah, do an AC30 style thing, do a Plexi style thing, do a JCM 800 style thing. But maybe if there's a new amp out that a guy that's kind of a, you know, they're not a Marshall or a Fender, it's like a smaller company and they're trying to make their way. Maybe don't undercut them by making their amp, you know, like the boutique guys. I don't know. Obviously, there's nothing probably legally you can do about it, but it's just like from an ethical thing perspective, it would be neat if they, you know, just distance yourself from it for a while so that, like from doing that, because there's enough cool old amps that you can do. You don't need to make a new version. I actually feel the same way. Like if they made a new, you know, like maybe it'd be fine to do the PV 5150 and do a version of that. But if you did the new EVH 5150 and copied it, I think a little close. I don't know. Talk amongst yourself. What do you think? Even a big company amp like that, I feel like just give it like 10 or 15 years until it kind of becomes a classic, and then go ahead and do your version, you know. What do I think of the Synergy VH4 module? You know what? I don't think I've tried that one yet. I don't think. I can't comment on that one. For metal ones, for Synergy, the ones that I've tried that I really enjoy were the Angle Savage is the one I always come back to. That's great. And the Deliverance was cool too, but it's much more than metal. I always thought, you know, the VHT or Fryette in metal terms, but it's the Deliverance will do much more than that. It's almost like a really versatile rock to metal thing. Trying to give a gift. I'm wondering if there's a big difference between the Wolfgang Special versus the Standard. Maybe country of origin. I'm not. I could be wrong about that, but I'm not sure exactly where they're made. I believe. I mean, the Special is it's a flat top, right? I'm not sure what other differences are. Maybe it doesn't have a maple top. It's probably a basswood body. Just look at the wood specs and stuff. They might be made. I don't know where they make them, but look, just, you know, that's probably it. You know, they're probably made like, maybe they're Korea or maybe there's something. I don't know. Does anybody out there know where the Wolfgangs are made? Let's take a look, shall we? I could go round and round about it, or I could just take a look. Special. Let's see. You know, they're about $1,000. You know, they're either going to be made in Mexico or made. Let's see, Wolfgang Special versus the first search that comes up is Wolfgang Special versus Standard. Oh, the Wolfgang. That's interesting. There's actually an article about this on cmuse.org, and there's a whole article about what the differences are. So there you go. cmuse.org. If you put it in, it'll pop up. Yeah, it isn't. Now you got me curious. What's the difference? Certain enhancements, worth the investment. Tons of additional features. Are there really? I don't know. I'm not seeing anything here, but there's an article on it. I sort of skimmed it, and that's how I read things sometimes. Is that you guys just witnessed me reading news articles and not really absorbing any of it. So oh, no, there's also a Gear Page thread about it. Let's see. The main difference is the body. Different Floyd. Different pots. Standard on the Special is a quarter sawn maple versus roasted on the Standard. Slightly thinner neck on the Standard. That's interesting. So there's some pots, the Floyd difference. And somebody says the body is different. Is it just flat top versus carve? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get into reading the Gear Page. You see, that's my attention. I'll just, like all of us, right? Get into your phone. Forget that there's 200 people watching you. But now I know. There's a few things different. Sorry, there's a super chat I didn't mean to miss. Let's see. Any help finding activation codes from Neural? License is on my iLock account. Just find the code, not an email. Should be in your user account, I would think. Like if you sign into Neural and go to your area, you know, I would think there would be a way to rectify that. No? go to the Neural website and then Neural and sign in. You get into your thing, because I know you can go to your purchases or whatever, and it'll show all the plugins that you have in there. And there might be a way to, maybe there'll be some support thing there for getting codes or whatever for acting, because I would think people are constantly getting new computers and having to reactivate the plugins and stuff. There must be a way. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but check it out. Hit us back. Have you explored George Lynch's tone on the second Lynch Mob album? Not extensively, but George always gets a great sound. I mean, it's pretty rare he has a bad sound. He sounds ripping these days. Like, he'll go out and do those gigs with Don Dock and play like a few songs at the end of the set. It always sounds great. Like, really good. Guy's like not lost it one bit. And he's just funny dude too. I love George. He's really cool. Like, he's got a great sense of humor, and he's a nice guy. He's cool. Ripper. Just awesome tones. And I like that he really likes, he likes old Strats and Les Pauls and stuff like that too. But he's really into obviously his, the ESP thing and the Mr. Scary thing, and loves old Parks. He's got this one amp it's an old Park. That's the one that Dave Friedman always raves about. But he has a lot of amps. He's got a lot of stuff, and he sounds great through whatever he plays through. Sometimes he uses Soldano. Let's see. What wood would I suggest for building a single pickup telly with a P90? Well, a telly with a P90. I've got a telly with a P90. I must say I'm not exactly sure what the wood is on my Mac Mall, but I think it's alder, really old alder. That's my memory of it. That it was, kind of like they use old wood they source from places and stuff. So, and it sounds great. Alder is always a pretty safe bet. It's a very sort of middle of the road sort of wood that it's not too warm, it's not too bright, it's just balanced, has nice mid-range. Whereas, mahogany would be cool too. Maybe balanced out with a maple neck or maybe a mahogany neck, if you want to go all the way. And then if you're going to do that, you might as well go for a 24 3/4 scale. And now you've sort of almost got a junior vibe, if you did, like, that's kind of cool, like 24 3/4 scale telly with, mahogany neck, mahogany body, P90. You're going to get into, especially if you do a, stop bar tailpiece or something, you're going to get into. It's never going to be quite the same because it's a bolt on and all that, but it does, to me, start to, that kind of punchy Les Paul Jr. thing. So it just depends what you want. My telly with my Mac Mall telly has more of a, I don't know, it's got this acoustic kind of vibe to it that's really awesome. Like, it doesn't really sound like a Les Paul Jr. or anything. It's got like more like it's got punchy, tone to it, but in the middle position, God, it's got this air to the sound that's just amazing. That's like kind of like an acoustic, like it's almost got these like a lot of the wood of the guitar comes through. I don't know if it's that old wood or not, but what are some of your favorite 6L6 style amps? Well, the Super Reverb, I would say, is probably number one for me. I love Super Reverbs. It's one amp I don't have that I would like to have. My Hedgehog is really nice. 6L6. What else? I liked my old 5150, my original one, for a hard rock amp that's got 6L6. That always sounded really good. And the original, that was Soldano. I mean, great. 5881's kind of interchangeable with 6L6. So I got one down there. It does its own thing and it's a cool thing. Oops. Sorry, I was just trying to highlight that. Hi from Barcelona. I love that city. I've been there for a long time. About to buy a set of Thornbucker Plus and Thornbucker Neck for a Fender Meteora, an Adjustomatic Awesome made in Mexico offset guitar. Those guitars are cool. Those Fenders they do, they're kind of, wacky vintage designs. I like them. The spacing's 53 millimeter, right? Yeah, it should be if it's a standard. Yeah, it's a regular kind of Fender-y Fender, right? 53 is fine for that. You just want the 50 for, Gibson's 2 pneumatic style bridges. that kind of thing. If it's got a Fender style bridge, it'll be 53. What else we got here? My Strat pickups are feeding back in high gain scenarios. They're modeled after late 50 Strat pickups. I think they're unpotted. You know, I've never tried potting a pickup. It's probably not that difficult, but I don't know if I would do it on my own. It'd probably be something I would let a tech do. But yeah, maybe you just want to try some different, you know, keep those ones. And Strat pickups, it's interesting. It's like you can even get a pick guard done up, you know, and then just replace the guard and then swap them out every now and then. It's not that hard, you know. If you do that, all you got to do is solder the trim wire, you know, going to the claw for the ground and then the output jack, and that's it. So maybe I would probably get, like, isn't there like Acme Guitar Works or something? There's like different like people that'll do like totally wired pick guards, you know, pre-wired pick guards. As a matter of fact, the pick guard for this guitar came from EMG like this. So, you know, I never would have picked a pearl guard like this because I'm just generally not a pearloid guy, but it looks so damn cool on this guitar that I'm like really glad that that they sent it. And it doesn't quite work with Sir's standard geometry as far as the screw holes in the neck and stuff, but they made it work. So they were telling me they didn't know if they'd be able to make it work and that they were going to have to put another one on it, another guard. But then when I got the guitar, it had it on. It's like, yeah, we just kind of massaged it here and there and made it work. So I'm really glad because I think it's really cool looking. But anyways, that guard comes loaded like that from EMG. You can buy them, like, you know. So kind of neat, I think. Way to go, you know. Just like why bother, you know, doing all that soldering to the switch and stuff if it's just a little bit more money for the guard and the pots and stuff, and then you can just swap out the guard and put your old one on if you go in the studio or something. You want to use your other pickups. Congratulations on 200 episodes. Thanks, Arthur, for the super chat. Thanks. I hope you have an awesome gig today. Thanks. Yeah, it's sort of a gig session, I guess. So I'm looking forward to it. If it happens and it's going to be something that, you know, you can see. So if that happens, I'll let you guys know on my social media when it is and stuff. I just can't talk about it yet. What else have I got? Looking to replace a Diatronic. Thanks so much, man, for the super chat. I appreciate that, Arthur. Yeah, 200 episodes. We made it together. And we've got almost 300 people online, even though I went online early. So thank you guys for being here early. I appreciate it. It's an odd time for me. To replace a Diatronic Tri-Stereo Chorus, Strymon Mobius or Tri-Stereo Chorus. Well, you've got to decide whether you want... I mean, the Mobius doesn't really have a tri-chorus in it. It's got great chorus. I really like the chorus in the Mobius. I really like the Mobius overall. It's a great pedal, like really good pedal. If you get in and fine tune the flangers and stuff, you can get them pretty damn close, I find, to, you know, Electric Mistresses and stuff like that. And get, you know, the EVH flange. I got it just about nailed in there. I find I can get really, really close. Only the, you know, the most staunch advocates of the different analog pedals and stuff are really going to, like, for gigging guys, it's awesome. That's why you always see on pro players' boards, you always see 3 Strymons, you know, a big Sky and a... by the way, I put my timeline back on my pedal board. So I've got, after all these years, you know, I had the timeline for a long, long time on my board for a delay. And then I had fluff all over me. I don't know why. Sorry. The timeline for a long time, and then I pulled it off and put a DD500 on there. And I got frustrated last week and pulled off the DD500 and put the timeline on. Why? The DD500, the display is quite small for me. It's a little difficult for me to see. The way you store things is it's just like ergonomically, I found it a little more difficult to use. Very good sounding delay, the DD500. But I found it, I was sort of dreading programming. That's all. DD200 I might like, but then you got to have those little small things for the MIDI cables, the little 1/8 inch, and I didn't want to get my whole board redone. And I just went and grabbed my timeline, put it back on. I was like, all right, start from scratch with delay sounds this week and just start making new presets. And it's fine. It makes echo noises and it's easy to program. Great. So much of what I do these days is just out of like convenience, you know. I just want it to be easy to use, easy to program, and that kind of thing. But anyway, I digress. You're asking about specifically a tri-stereo chorus. I mean, the tri-stereo chorus is terrific at that. Really liked it, like you heard in the video that I did for it. I'm sure. I hope you have to check that one out. And it sounds lush and beautiful. So maybe the question is more like if you really want the tri-chorus, you need that sound. You should also be considering the H9 then, maybe, because you can do tri-stereo chorus in the H9. It's just an algorithm. Eventide's very smart with the way they've been releasing these pedals. I mean, just the targeted, micro pitch, ultra tap, I think it's called, and then the tri-stereo chorus, the individual pedals that do that thing with a few presets in them. They're much easier to use than an H9. But at the end of the day, they're kind of recycling old algorithms, that you can already get in an H9. So it's interesting. It's more for folks. It's like appealing to people that are, like something simpler, don't want to deal with the app, probably just want to pedal with knobs, but want a little bit of versatility. So I think it's smart. They seem to be doing well for them. And I kind of like the format. I mean, I love the idea of just, like I would almost rather have, 4 or 5 of those on a board with the main, because I find like in an H9, if anybody's out there that uses one, you probably find that you use the same algorithms over and over, right? I tend to use the spring reverb or the black hole reverb or one of the earth reverb, which I don't know if that's a hall or I guess it's kind of a hall reverb. Those are the reverbs I use in the H9. And then I'll use the rotary. I will use sometimes the vintage digital, and the pitch shifter for doing diatonic stuff. 9 times out of 10 though, that's kind of it. Like those algorithms, those are the ones that I gravitate towards. Occasionally I experiment with other things, but I don't really get into the weird ones that much. Anyways, I don't know if I helped you at all, but I would just say if you want just tri-chorus, go for the tri-chorus. But if you want modulation pedal that does a ton, has nice chorus, it's not tri-chorus, but it has a good chorus in it, and it does a bunch of other things, then look at the Mobius. And if you want something that does a bunch of other things, you can also look at the H9. And it does have tri-chorus. Vito, thanks for answering my questions, the gear reviews, the entertainment, the inspiration. Thanks, man. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Do you have a JMP1 Marshall preamp? I don't, but I kind of like those. They're sort of cool. I kind of always wanted one. Like, I don't know why I didn't have that back in the day instead of, I had a Mesa Studio Pre. Like, why didn't I have the Marshall? I was kind of, in the late 80s into the early 90s, I think I thought I was a Mesa guy. Not slagging Mesa, but I'm more of a Marshall guy. You're usually one or the other sort of in your, well, I guess Andy Timmons is kind of both. But when we think about somebody like Petrucci, he's definitely diehard Mesa guy, in that camp. Yeah, JMP1, cool, like kind of neat. They sound pretty good. A lot of people used them. I didn't seem to remember like maybe Iron Maiden and maybe Def Leppard. Like you'd see bands with racks for the road, and that's what would be in there with some rack power amp and some other rack gear. Here's a good question. EQ in the mix. What are the key frequencies to push for a guitar to cut? What are the musical frequencies? Well, I usually find if something's, so the first thing you can do if you want to find a harsh frequency is you can narrow the bandwidth so that if it's a flat line and then you're going to boost an EQ up, how wide is it? Is it a big hump that you're going to boost, or is it more narrow and pointed? And you can narrow it, boost it up like 8 dB or something, and then sweep it. And you'll find the harsh frequency. I tend to think that the harsh frequencies are usually somewhere like from 2.5 to 5K, somewhere in there. You'll get like a 3 point something frequency that's like it sounds harsh or just crappy, and you can narrow in on it and then just give it a little dip, and sometimes that'll help to smooth things out. But it's a fine line because you don't want your guitar to be unintelligible either. So sometimes a dip between sometimes 1K is a little and like the mids in that frequency, like 500 to 1K, you can sometimes do a gentle wide dip, and it's kind of cool, especially on distorted rhythm sounds. It's kind of the Eddie Van Halen thing. It's like, I'm pretty sure on the console that, back then that they would maybe, who knows, maybe they had a Pultec like boosting lows or something, but I could definitely hear like a wide mid cut from maybe 500 to up to 1K, something like that, fairly wide. If 190 to 250, but I'm finding like 190 these days, if the guitar's woofy, and if you got too much, it's getting in the way of the bass, sometimes that 190 can be a drag. So sometimes you can do a sort of a gentle boost at 100 or more narrow boost at 100, just a little bit, few dB. I don't go crazy with that stuff. And then up around 190, sometimes I'll do a dip of a couple dB, and that just starts to clean up your mix the more you do that. Also up to 250 or so, sometimes 250, sometimes 300. It just depends. 190 to 300, somewhere in there, can help to clean up, and then I will lop off everything below generally 80 hertz for sure, if not up to, sometimes on lead guitars as high as maybe 120 or something. I'll get rid of the stuff below that. As you start to do that on your rhythm guitars, you find your mix gets like, you stack up a bunch of guitars and it can sound a little muffled. And then you start to do that stuff, and all of a sudden the clarity comes back and you haven't even really boosted any top end. Now, for lead guitar, if you don't want to turn it up, but you want it to sit in the mix a little more, and then 2K is what I do generally. A little boost, narrow, or it's kind of a wide boost actually sometimes, but I don't know. I don't go a lot with it. It's amazing what a dB or dB and a half or 2 dB at the most will do at 2K to make the guitar just come forward and be right there. So there's some EQ stuff. Oh, what else we got here? Maidens still use JMP ones. Yeah, I mean, why change, right? If it works. If it works. Let's see. I think the Pultec EQ is a massive part of the EVH sound. You could be right. I would love to know, Don Landy, like, what did you do with Pultecs and 1176s? Also mics, but also console EQ. What'd you do with Pultecs, 1176s, console EQ, and microphones? Those would be my questions. For sure. Yeah. Specific and affordable set of headphones I can use with my amp. I always forget the name of these, but I think they're called CB ones. My only problem with them is that small print on the SACB1. Something audio, SA. I can't remember what it stands for. The people that send me these, I always feel terrible because I can't. You guys should put your name right on the side. But anyway, CB1 headphones. CB as in Bob. These headphones, Status Audio, I think, is the company. I think that's it. About $70, I think. And they replaced my Sonys that I'd used for years. I have other headphones here that I also like very much. I've got a nice pair of open back Sennheiser, some Bear Dynamic, really nice, $300-400 headphones. But they all sound great. These are the ones that always end up here on my desk. They just sound really good. And a lot of the reviews you'll see for those CB1s online say, these headphones have no right to sound as good as they do for $70. And I sort of feel the same way. They just sound really good. Status, that's Ty, yeah. And Ty says he just bought a pair. Yeah, they're really good, right? Like really balanced sounding. Ty gives him an endorsement. And this fellow's got them too. $60 on Amazon, says Dan. Yeah, they're really good. Like for the dough. It's one of those great inexpensive things, Can a Chase Bliss automaton, never sure how to say it, replace every overdrive pedal? Really good. I mean, like, probably kind of, I mean, I don't know, if any one piece of gear can exactly replace any one other piece of gear. That's, like I say, there's going to always be some people that want their original Univibe and they don't want to use the one in the Mobius, or they want the EVH flange, they don't want to use the one in the Mobius, and that's okay, but you can get a lot of overdrive tones out of that thing. And it is like, that is an amp in a pedal kind of overdrive design. But with the added thing that it's got the fuzz stuff, which is awesome, it's great to have the fuzz circuits in there, which sound really good. It is sensitive to buffers. So just know that the fuzz, you can use it with buffers in front of the overdrive sounds, but if you turn on the fuzz and you got a buffer on your board or something, it's going to sound a little squirrely in front of that pedal. So if there's a way to run it early in the chain and not have a buffer in front, that's a good thing. There might be an adjustment. Somebody told me, I thought there was an adjustment for impedance on it somewhere so that you can affect that. But nonetheless, even if you could adjust it so that you could use it with you know, a buffered signal, I find that you know, if I'm going to run into a fuzz that's sensitive to buffers, I generally like, I want to go high impedance pickups into it. I don't want, because I want to take advantage if the fuzz does the cool cleanup thing when you roll the volume down, all that sparkle and stuff. That's just too cool. So the band-aid of kind of raising the impedance or whatever, you know, if you're running a buffer in front of it to just enough to get it to sound okay, I guess that's kind of cool, but it'll still never do the cleanup thing and all that magic stuff, which is what's so cool about a fuzz face, that warm when you play it, and then all the high end comes in when you roll down. I love that dynamic thing. Like, that's what's cool about those pedals. So anyway, just be aware it does do those things, but you know, just something to consider. Don't put it on your board with buffered pedals in front and then go like, oh, the fuzz is underwhelming. You know, try it. It'll blow your mind with the no buffer in front. One of those pedals that does that. Brett, thanks, buddy, for the super chat. I appreciate it. 200 episodes. You guys have been faithfully here most weeks, if not all, and I enjoy it. I have a good time being here. This fella's got a Klon KTR. Peter, what's up, man? How you doing? Klon KTR with that. Yeah, that'd be a formidable combo for sure. Awesome. David says he's worried about his bouncy strumming technique. What's wrong with bouncy strumming? I do it. Play fingerstyle, maybe. Work on your Travis picking or something. My hand is always like a pendulum. You'll probably see it. Sometimes it looks weird in videos, like maybe the video's not synced to the audio, because sometimes before I start playing, I get my hand swinging. You know, it's kind of like a shaker. Like, if you guys ever play tambourine or shaker in the studio, it's helpful sometimes to, if you're, you know, to punch in like at the top of the bar, if it's the top of the chorus, to punch in instead of starting to play at the top of the chorus, because you're like, you know, to get the motion going sometimes takes a second to get in the groove, I find. So sometimes it's really effective to, you know, play for a bar on the tambourine, like, and then the punch comes and you're already in the mode. That's kind of what I do with my hand. Sometimes I get it bouncing, but unlike a tambourine, you can not hit the strings. So I'll move my hand and then I'll hit the strings once the strumming part starts, you know, and I do that without thinking about it, but it looks kind of funny sometimes, I think, because it looks like I'm supposed to be, you should hear some sound coming out, but you don't. And then all of a sudden I hit the strings and you hear the sound. It's just like I'm warming it up or whatever, you know, kind of winding it up. Yeah. Somebody's there in the super chat with a very nice super chat. Hey man, thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks, Michael. Too kind, my friend. How do I get a good hot for teacher like kit? For Superior Drummer 3, Billy Sheehan is playing on my new record and it sounds killer, but I'm trying to push Mutt snares, Alex snares, Simmons kicks, and messing with a lot of stuff. Yeah, well, okay, so Superior. I mean, you've got your work cut out for you a little bit doing it with Superior. I really wish somebody would just come out with, like, wouldn't it be cool if there was an Alex Van Halen, you know, signature Superior drummer with all that stuff in it? Like a you know, there's like the Bob Rock, like the Rock Foundry, and the, you know, I think it would be amazing if somebody made like an Alex Van Halen, if Alex did it, you know, with a great engineer, you know, went in and got all his sounds, much like there's the Bob Rock package and the different, you know, that'd be so cool, man. The 1984 kit, how cool would it be with the Octabands and everything to have? But I digress. There isn't that. I was trying to get a Van Halen sound for something recently, and I actually hit up Steven Slate because he's a friend of mine. I'm like, what should I use for Alex Van Halen snare out of all your drums? Like, because he's Steven Slate drums, you know. And he's like, I'll work on this. I'll get back to you. And then he never did. So Steven, come on. Steven's a great guy. He's doing a million things. Doesn't have time for that kind of stuff, I'm sure. But he is still geeks out on things like that. So I'm sure, I'm not answering your question though, am I? I would probably use, like I might do something custom where I start with one of the Bonhamy kits. It's not exactly the same, but when I think of the Alex Van Halen snare, at least he does just a unique thing with the tape on the drum, right? You can watch Rick Beato's video on it. That's pretty good. Rick always does good work on getting that snare sound. Just kind of do some research and then see if you can put a kit together somehow maybe for the Simmons kicks, maybe calling up like a like electronic kit, and find a kick that's close. I don't know if I'm being helpful, but it's something that I've had trouble with. And the 1984 thing's very specific because of the Simmons and the Simmons toms, and evidently the way that they like the tracks, it's very strange. There was only like 5 or 6 tracks of drums on 1984, and it was like this weird, somebody told me that they thought that they overdubbed the cymbals, that the cymbals were done separate from the drums. That's interesting, right? And yet you had to, because I was thinking about that. I was always thinking like, okay, if you're playing Simmons pads and you've got overheads to do the cymbals, because that's how it was done, right? For those out there that don't know, it was acoustic snare. But then I think just about everything else, except for maybe like octabands, was electronic Simmons pads, right? The kicks and and for those that don't know, the intro of Hot for Teachers, evidently, the at the beginning or whatever is Ed's Lamborghini, I think. It's the engine on the car, and then when the drums come in and they tuned the kick to be at the same pitch, because you could do that in Simmons, the same pitch as the car. So go back and listen to it and see if you can hear all that if you haven't. There were some really fun things going on that record. With production that were quite interesting, that were unique, I think. And it gives that record a real sound. I can't imagine that record sounding any different. Some people think it doesn't sound good. And I guess, recording up there, Don, like I read an article on it a while ago that landed was like kind of, it was difficult. I don't think, the idea to the powers that be of recording up there was tough for them because it was like they liked having an echo chamber, the Sunset Sound thing, or, real like access to good reverb and stuff like that. They didn't really have that up there because it was really a converted racquetball court, I believe, in the beginning, and then it got built into 5150 and it was a more legit studio, But it gave it a sound, and it's a testament to actually Don's awesome engineering and stuff, because he worked with what he had and he created a really good sounding record nonetheless that is a little different than all the other Van Halen records. Like, they didn't have that wash of Sunset Sound reverb in the chamber and all that stuff. So that I don't know if that's helpful, Michael, but I hope it was at least some of it interesting. If there's anything in there that you didn't know, you probably knew it all. But thank you for the super chat. Did you ever play or meet SRV? So I was at one of his gigs in 85 and he spoke to me directly off the stage. That was pretty thrilling for a young kid of maybe 13 years old or something that I was at the time. The story is that it was probably like Couldn't Stand the Weather tour, 85. So yeah, I would have been 13, 14. I got there good and early. It was general admission, so I wanted to get a good place in, like the crush of people trying to get in and be close. And it was at a big club in Edmonton called the CI South, Convention Inn South, which was a hotel, really. Convention Inn was a hotel, obviously, but it had a big rock bar in it. I can't remember the name of the rock bar, but big kind of ballroom style rock bar in it that you can maybe put 1,000 people in. And I remember getting there and getting, in good and early, and then they opened the doors and we all rushed to the front of the stage, and I was right up against the stage, right in front of him for the whole show. And my main memories of that night, well, the main one, you asked me if I ever met him, he sat down on his amp to play Lenny. He sat down to start playing the intro. And I was with a friend of mine that was, I was fairly tall for my age, but my friend was really kind of short. And So he looked like really young too, for his age even, you know. And here's this like sea of dudes around us that look like bikers or something, or hardcore like rock and blues dudes, you know. And then these two little kids, you know, were in the front. And he sat down. I think he liked seeing us. He looked at us and he goes, "How you guys doing?" Pointed at us. "You guys all right? How you guys doing?" We're like, "We're good, man. This is awesome." He's like, "Great." And then he started to play Lenny. So it's a great memory. You know, being a little kid. It was really neat. I saw BB King kind of in a similar, it was more a sit down supper club kind of vibe. You know, blues club in Edmonton, but it was a club, and it was like, you know, it was really like a nice way to see BB King. It wasn't in an arena or something. And it's probably 83. I went with my dad, and it's a great memory because I didn't do a lot of that stuff with my dad, but occasionally we went to see music shows together. I went to see George Jones with him too, and that was equally great when I was a kid. But like BB King, I always remember, you know, he was, is it paying the cost to be the boss? He's singing that. My dad was a Ford dealer. He owned a Ford car dealership in Leduc, Alberta. And BB's, you know, singing, and he does the line where he's like, "I bought you a brand new Ford." And you said, "I want a Cadillac." And I turned around and looked at my dad, and my dad was like just busting up, you know, because he didn't know BB's music that well, but he really had fun. He had a great time. And, you know, he loved that. And so that's a great memory. Going a similar memory because I was really close. Like we were right in front of BB, and it was really cool. And he was playing amazing. You know, this is early 80s. So a couple great blues legends there. But anyway, good stories. Thanks for reminding me of those. Those are nice memories. Black Dog there in the super chat. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What else we got here? Yeah, from what I remember, we used to use a lot of duck or duct. Somebody's saying, "Is it duck or duct?" I don't actually have any idea, because you can get duct tape. You can also get duct tape. Yeah, it's a tape thing that he used to do, and kind of the tuning and stuff is very specific. My friend Blair has a pretty good handle on it, actually. Blair Cinta has a YouTube channel for the fellow. It was Michael. Michael asking about the Alex Van Halen thing. And if you want to do a little bit of research into this, he made a nice video also on the Van Halen drum sound that you could check out on his channel. And Blair's a good guy to ask questions because he's got live streams that he does sometimes. So if you're like, "What's the Alex Van Halen snare thing? How do you tune it? How do you tape it?" He would tell you, you know. And it might be, you know, God, there's got to be somebody out there that does one of these days a cool Van Halen drum sample pack, because that would just be very useful. Yeah. Michael says, "I was at 1984 rehearsals." That's cool. What were you doing back then, man? That's awesome. Oh, you worked at Jose's shop. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Wow. You've got some stories. Tell us some good Jose stories about other folks that brought amps in for mods and stuff. Love to know. Yeah. 1984 changed my life as a 10-year-old. Yeah, me too, man. It was like a very monumental, it was a great time in music. I mean, when you think about it, 1984 was prevented from getting all the way to number one. It got to number two. Was it the album chart or was it the single? Was it Jump? I think it was the album. Like Van Halen never had a number one album until 5150 because of Thriller. So Thriller was out and was reigning at the top of the charts for a long time. So that was out. And then, of course, you had Purple Rain at the same time, right? It's like, and Purple Rain has also an amazing sound in a similar way that 1984 has an amazing sound. It's a very distinct sounding record that is a real, like, you know, marks the era, you know. I blew someone's mind the other day by telling them as well that the Purple Rain, you know, the single, the song is live. That's a live recording from First Avenue that was just mixed, and you don't hear audience in it really and stuff because it was just, you know, stage mics and stuff like that. They weren't going for, you know, it was just, they got a great recording of the song, and it's a live recording. It's amazing at First Avenue, and so there you go. Probably Prince's signature song. It was done live, right? It's kind of awesome. Yeah, missed some super chats, maybe? Like this one? John, planning on joining a cover band. Do you have any guitar strap suggestions? Heavier guitars? You know, some people sort of subscribe to the like thicker, wider straps for heavier guitars. I don't really think that's a thing. For me, I like, generally speaking, my favorite straps are like seatbelt material, you know, like that slippery that don't grip my clothes. I don't like it when they've got a backing on them that kind of pulls my jacket or my shirt or whatever, and I feel it. It's kind of like, you know, I'm not really like, I'm a big fan of comfortable clothes that aren't, you know, I don't really like sweaters and wool and like things where I feel like it's like, yeah, you know, like I like, you know, so straps, I like it to be as invisible as possible, kind of as far as the feel goes. So that's the main thing. But there's a lot of great straps out there, you know, so you just kind of got to try them and see what works for you. I don't have like specific suggestions, but yeah. Let's see what else we got here. I used to play racquetball in the 80s. I did too. I played racquetball a little bit when I was a kid. It was kind of fun. I don't remember how I got into it or what, but it was fun. It's good exercise. Do you also experience certain stages where you learn new licks? Sure, all the time. I mean, I like had to learn all those songs for that Van Halen gig that I did recently. The Van Halen band, you know, that we put together to play all the like 23 or 24 songs. So I had to learn songs that I'd never learned a lot. You know, I'd never learned all the solos to, you know, like DOA or even Somebody Get Me a Doctor. I like finally learned how to play it right because I wasn't really doing it. I could kind of do it, but I wasn't really doing it right. Which, by the way, I have a video I've got to put up this week of our version of that we did. What are some of the other ones I learned? I don't know, like Feel Your Love Tonight. I never learned the solos on that. All the little licks and stuff. Even Beautiful Girls, the whole ending, you know, when they're singing, he's playing all the licks in the middle and stuff. So I learned all those, which is really fun. And when you get it and it's on autopilot, it sounds really fun. Or it is really fun. I don't know if it sounds fun, but it is fun. Ben Coombs, what's up, buddy? He says, don't forget to hit that like. Let's get Pete to 200. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And thank you, good sir. What's your name? Binio28. Thank you, man. Over there in the UK. I'll see you soon. Be over there relatively soon. Thank you for your super chat. 366 people online. So happy to have you guys here for an early one today. We'll go about another 45 minutes, and then I'm going to go do my gig. Let's see. Lauren says, I'd still like to see Clear Mountain Part 2. I know, man. I've got that on a drive, and I just have to finish it. It's so long. The thing is that it was like kind of intertwined with a song that I've got that I want to put out as a single. I should just put it out without a lot of hubbub, and then put out the video, the part 2 of the video, because it's now like 2 or 3 years ago that I filmed that. But the information's still super valid that's in it. I'm kind of like embarrassed that I didn't have a better filming setup. That's all when I went there. And I know the content's what really matters, but I didn't have, my lighting scene wasn't together and stuff. And so the camera footage is pretty grainy. And I felt bad about that, but I know it doesn't really matter. Like the more you want to hear his stories and stuff, and that's the most important thing. I'm still proud of the video I did, but I wish I'd been a little more on it, you know, going over there and being a little more pro, you know. And now I've been inspired to do that a little bit more. You know, I should have gotten there earlier and then like set up the, you know, just made it look a little better and stuff. And I've got so much better camera now. And, you know, and it's funny, I didn't even mention the camera, but the lighting is really what's most important. If you get into video at all, you guys out there that do this kind of stuff, you know. So, but I can make a cool video out of it anyway. You know, put something together. What else we got here? Best budget flanger pedal. Well, what do you consider budget? I mean, I would just do the EVH, you know. I don't think they're that expensive. If not that, probably a Boss. Good old Boss flanger would be just fine. right? Flangers are kind of specific. They're like, they all do a slightly different thing. Maybe, doesn't Electro-Harmonics probably make like a Mistress that's, one of their little mini ones? Maybe those. You got to try them though, because they all sound different. The Joyo Vintage Flanger, says Ben. That's probably, it's probably, what's it a copy of? Copy of something for sure, right? Yeah. Are there any career mistakes you've learned from that aren't obvious to most people? Yeah. I was talking about this the other day. Okay, it depends on what it is that you're doing with your career. But if you're a sideman, you're essentially a person that's doing work for hire. You're kind of a mercenary, out there. You got to stand up for yourself. You need to be your own advocate. And there's been some difficult situations in my career where I was faced with a choice of I'm a bit of a people pleaser in life in general, and that doesn't necessarily work with being your own advocate. If you're putting other people's needs and stuff first all the time, then it's, and this is where maybe having a manager or asking advice, of trusted friends and stuff is helpful sometimes, because you might get, actually, I was faced with a situation like this yesterday, come to think of it. And I did get some advice from a friend, and they told me what to do. And I was like, you're right. That's what I should do. It's interesting. I have these people pleasing kind of, I want everybody to be happy. And sometimes that is at the expense of your own well-being. So I was in a situation once where I was offered a gig that was life-changing, would have been probably, maybe not, but probably. And I had a tour coming up with another artist, and I said, I want to obviously do your gig to this new opportunity, but I've got this tour coming up, and it's coming up in 2 weeks, and it's for 3 weeks. I'll be gone, and then I'm back. And they were like, it was not really it wasn't quite a deal breaker, but it was sort of a deal breaker, just in the sense that they were like, well, that sort of pisses us off, and we want you to commit to us today. And I was like, hey, I don't want to leave my friends. This is my number one. This is my gig that I've had for a couple of years, the other project that I was supposed to go on tour with. And I said, if I I'm going to burn a bridge if I leave on them 2 weeks before a tour or whatever. It's going to bum them out. And I'm going to burn a bridge. And I just don't feel good about that. And I thought I was doing the right thing, being loyal to my gig, And in a way, I guess I was. But you know what the reality is that we had another guitar player in that band. It was a 2-guitar band in the band I was already in. And had I left, they would have been fine. And how do I know that? Because 3 or 4 months later, the other guitar player left in a similar fashion right before a tour. And so we did it as a 4-piece, and it was fine. It was great. It was just no problems. It was fine. The guy was pissed, the singer, he wasn't happy about that situation, about the guy leaving, but it ended up being fine, So I know I could have left. And so what I should have done in that moment when I was sitting there in the room, and they were saying look, we've actively stopped looking for a guitar player. And you're sitting here telling us you've got to go on the road and finish this tour. So we're not going to look for anybody else. And if in 3 weeks you come back and our management hasn't told us, we absolutely have to check somebody out, there's just somebody that's come along that, if barring that, when you come back in 3 weeks, you're our guitar player. That was what was said to me. But if our management tells us we absolutely have to play with somebody, we might do that. So if you're not going to commit to it, it's basically if you're not going to commit to us today, we're not going to totally commit to you. In that moment, I should have said, all right, I'll do it, but I need an assurance, maybe 3-month severance or something, because they had just fired another guitar player, and who's to say they wouldn't do that to me in 2 weeks or something. Now I've lost my old gig, and now I'm out of a gig. So I should have said, let's come up with a business arrangement that makes sense, where I've got some security. I'm going to work my ass off for you. I don't think that's going to happen, but I just need a little bit of security because I don't know you guys, and and let's make this work. If you're willing to do that here today, I'm committing to you right now. I'll be in your band. And so I didn't do that. I held fast, and we proceeded, with the other plan, which was if you come back in 3 weeks and we haven't heard someone else that we like more, then you're going to be our guitar player in 3 weeks. So I went on the road, and sure enough, that's what happened. They listened to somebody and they went with the other guy. And about 4 or 5 days into my tour, and it was really hard for me. And that was Nine Inch Nails. So that's that story. And it was always the one that got away. This is 85. It's a 2005, the With Teeth tour. There you go. So what would life have been like? I don't know. Aaron only did that one tour, that one album cycle tour, and then Robin came back after that. And of course, Nine Inch Nails is really Trent, and it's his thing, but I got along really good with him, I felt like, and I really liked him. He was a very serious guy, but I on a musical level, I think he's a genius, and I liked his, maybe it would have been difficult, but I like difficult challenges, and I felt like I would have rise to the occasion, and who knows what would have been. Maybe I wouldn't be doing this or whatever, So that was always the one that got away. And I thought it looked like for a minute, after we had that meeting, I'm sitting in there with them and they're like, so that's the plan then, if you come back in 3 weeks, you'll be our guitar player. And I was like, okay, I guess we move forward like that. And they're like, okay, let's play, let's rehearse. And here's a video treatment. What do you think of this? And they handed it to me. And all of a sudden I felt like they kind of treated me for the next 2 days like I was in the band. And we were playing, and, I played with them for, a couple days after that or whatever. And then I had to go on the road, rehearsing, but I got to play all those great songs with those guys, and it was super cool. It was really fun. I had a great time in there, and I learned some things, even just in that limited amount of time I spent with Trent, watching him and how he musically directed everything, what he wanted. He'd ask me for specific things, and I felt like he'd be like, this one part, this 8 bars or whatever, can you do something that's kind of chaotic and hit a fuzz or something and do, and I would, and he'd be like, that's perfect. Okay. I felt like I had this really, really good rapport with him on a musical level. So, it was really cool, but anyways, that's that story. But, it was, who asked you, Trent, personally? Yeah. I had a, I can tell you, I don't want to bore you because when I tell the story, it can get really long, but, the initial audition process, it was 3 different meetings of, first of all, learning 6 or 7 songs, playing them I had to play to tracks, just play along to the record, I think is what I was doing at a rehearsal studio. And just the bass player and the drummer at the time, Jerome and Jordy, were there. So they watched me. I made it past that phase of the audition. And then I was asked to play for Trent. And before I went and played for Trent, I was asked to come down to a meeting. So I went to meet him in person. So I went to the Village in LA, met him, shook his hand. They took me in and played me some music from the new album. He said, I just want to see if you're interested in this because it's a little bit of a departure direction-wise for us, and see if you like it. So this is, there's still 4 guys in the running for the gig at this point. I assume he met with all of them in the same way. And they played me a couple songs from With Teeth. And I sat at the console, push play, and I sat there in the chair, and I was like, holy shit, this is great. It blew my mind because I really like that record. It's such a great record. So, Don't You Know What You Are, they played me that, and maybe Hand That Feeds, a couple, the album hadn't come out yet. And, so I was like, yeah, dude, this is amazing. I love this. He's like, okay. And my enthusiasm was genuine. He's like, okay, I'll see you in a couple of days. And then I went down and I auditioned, which was the same thing, me playing the tracks with him there. And it was if you can imagine this, you're on a stage. I can't really see him. He's sitting off and it's black out there. And I'm on stage with stage lights on me. And I got my computer and I'm queuing up tracks and just playing with no band. Well, who knows what they're doing out there? They could have been making fun of me or something. Right. And, but I did that, and I learned different versions of the songs. So he'd say, okay, let's hear this one. And I'd go, do you want me to do the live version from this tour? Or do you want me to do more like the album version? and he would say, "Oh wow, you learned both, okay," and then I would do it, and they told me I was only going to play like 3 songs or something out of the 7 they'd given me to learn, and they said he'll pick 3, and then it's just probably going to be like 3, and that's it. But he went through all 7, and one of them was Hurt. And when he got to the end, he said, "How did you learn Hurt?" And I said, "I learned it on nylon string, just like Robin played it on tour." And he said, "I'm going to come over and do it with you." So he came down. They set up. They weren't prepared for that at the rehearsal studios. They're like, "Oh," so they set up a vocal mic, got it going in the PA, and I played it on nylon string guitar, and he sang it with me. Give me a break. I mean, that was just the coolest shit ever, right? It was like we just stood face to face, and I played it with him. So it was really, really cool. So that happened, and there was 4 guys auditioning. One of them was Yogi, my buddy in Chris Cornell's band. Just a couple of years after that, we ended up in. So it's a small world in LA, or at least it was back then. But they picked another guy. It wasn't me or Yogi, and they told me that the other guy was kind of crazy in his audition. Like he was like writhing around on the ground and making crazy faces and doing stuff while he was playing, and they liked that. That wasn't really me. It still isn't to this day, although I'm a better performer than I was back then. I was a bit more about the music and playing with the tones great. And as you guys know what I do or whatever, right? Executing the parts really well with the right sound and all that. That's what was my focus. And so I was disappointed because I'd been through this whole sort of 3-stage audition process and really worked hard on it. And then it doesn't end up panning out. And you're like, oh, so this is kind of before Christmas. And, I was like, it's kind of bummed or whatever. And then Christmas goes by, I'm into the new year. And I remember I was standing in the kitchen at the house I was living in. And I was filling out a passport application to renew my passport. I don't know why I remember this, but I do. I'm standing by the island in the kitchen and filling it out. The phone's ringing. And I pick it up. "Peter, yeah, this is Trent Reznor." I'm like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Haven't you been getting my emails?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "I've been emailing you for like a week and you haven't been responding." And I said, what address have you been emailing to? So he had the wrong email address for me. It was close to mine, but it wasn't quite right. And he's like, "Ugh, I've been sending emails to some random person for like a week." And I was like, "Well, what's going on?" And he said, "The other guitar player didn't work out. It's not working out." He's like, and he sounded really stressed on the phone. He was like, I just want you to come down here. Well, how soon can you come down and play?" And I was like, I hadn't played the songs in a few weeks at that point. So I was like, "Give me like 24 hours to go over the songs. And then I can swing down tomorrow." And he goes, "Okay." He goes, "And just come down here and just get the gig. I want you to just come down and get the gig." I remember that's, what he said. And I was like, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow." And I hung up the phone and okay, you want to hear more? I don't know. I mean, is it interesting or am I boring the hell out of you? You want to talk about guitar stuff? Anyways, Vital says that I'm way better than that. I didn't miss out on much because he's not a Nine Inch Nails fan. Dude, I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. So I don't know. Check out the new Halsey album that Trent did with her and Atticus. It's so great. But don't stop on a cliffhanger, says Lauren. Okay, so he says, "Come down. I just want you to come down and get the gig." So I go in the room where I had my gear set up in that house, and I start practicing, going over the stuff. And I go down and I play with them the next day, which was the first time I'd actually played with the band, right? Because it was always to tracks before or whatever, and just with like whatever. So I jammed Hurt with Trent, but this was the first time I've played full band. So we play a bunch of songs. It goes good. I mean, we play probably 5-6 tunes, and I'm having a great time. I mean, it's really cool. I'm like playing with Nine Inch Nails. This is cool. And it was a great version of Nine Inch Nails too, with Alessandro on keys and Jordy on bass, Jerome on drums, who did The Fragile and all that stuff. Who's a great drummer, I thought. He ended up getting replaced not long after that because he had some medical issues. But anyways, they say to me, "Okay, we're going to give you a song now off the new record. We want to see how fast you can learn it. So we're going to give you an iPod. We're going to go in the other room and you just take your time, no rush, learn the song, and then we'll come back in and play it. So they handed me an iPod, and it was this song called The Collector, which is on With Teeth. And if you listen to it, the verse is in 5/4, and then it goes to straight 4/4 chorus. So it's a little odd meter. Okay, throwing me a little curveball. There's some different tones going on with fuzz and just kind of a driven tone, but then a fuzz, definite fuzz, and kind of chaotic sounding stuff. And really, really cool song, actually. So I sat there for about 15 minutes, internalized it, went over the riff because it's a little weird, how it rolls into the chorus and gets out of the odd time part. I was like, okay, all right. And I said, okay, I think I got this. I'm ready, and they came back in, counted it off. We went into it and played it together. So I just learned it like 15 minutes prior, and at the end of the song, we played it down and the drummer goes, well, you just nailed that better than the guy that was in here trying to do it for 3 weeks. I thought, that's a good sign. This is looking good. So then we ended that night. I packed up and left, and I was like, this is feeling great. And I didn't hear from them for like 2 weeks after that. Nothing. So it's like, this has now gone on since the beginning of December through kind of mid-January. And I'm just like, oh man, and so I've got this tour looming, right? Had they just hired me then, they'll probably, or been like the next day, like, okay, you're the guy. I would have been like, okay, cool. Because now I've still got a month before the tour, but the tour is getting closer and closer. It's now 2 weeks away that I'm supposed to go on this tour. And I emailed Trent and said, like, hey, I haven't heard anything from you guys. Maybe you've gone another direction. Just not sure, but just wanted to touch base. I've got this tour coming up. These are the dates, and I don't know. Hope I'll still hear from you. Email pops back 2 minutes later. It's like, I don't know how much of this I should tell in public, because he was very cool about it, actually. Like, I've got no issues with him, but he wrote me right back and was kind of like basically like, the gist of it was like, but what if we want you and this could be costing you your chance kind of email, right? And I was like, well, can we talk on the phone? And so he called me and he basically said, he goes, I don't even want to actually, once again, I don't know how much detail I need to go into, but he basically said, look, you're basically our guy, but now you're telling me this. And I was sort of like, okay, but I was just thinking in the back of my head, like, why haven't you called me then to see if, because it's been like 2 weeks. But he said, let me talk to the other guys about this tour situation stuff, and I'll call you back. I'll just call you back. And I'm like, okay. I was like, and that was agonizing. I was like, I hung up the phone. Am I like blowing it right now? And then he doesn't call me until like 5:30. This was about 10 in the morning. So the whole day goes by and I'm just like, fuck, this is driving me crazy, I thought, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I totally blowing it? And indeed, I was kind of totally blowing it, but that's my, that's the whole purpose of the question. And this whole long ass 15-minute story is, anyways, point being, he calls me at 5:30 and he goes, okay, can you come down to the studio? And I said, yeah. And I said, do you want to play? You want me to bring gear? And he goes, yeah, bring gear. Let's play. Okay. I hung up the phone. I thought, that's it. I'm in 9 Inch Nails. They decided they'd work with it, with the schedule that I'd kind of laid down. It just felt like it. It was like, all right, kind of begrudgingly, get down here, bring your gear, let's play. I thought it was like, we're going to work with this situation. So I put all my stuff in the car and drove all the way over there, like super stoked, And then I got there and they had this meeting with me where they pulled me in a room and it's all the guys and me, sitting there facing. It was Jerome, Jordy, and Alessandro wasn't there. It was Jerome, Jordy, and Trent. Trent seemed very stressed and kind of like, and actually I remember Jerome did the talking and kind of said, look, here's the deal. We can't commit to you today if you're not willing to commit to us. But if you come back in 3 weeks and we haven't played with someone else that we like more, you're going to be our guitar player then. So these are these moments where you might face a situation. And you have to remember that you are your own advocate in that moment. You are your own, there's nobody else that's going to give you the advice. I mean, maybe, you might have somebody, but you have to make that decision and you're going to piss somebody off if you leave a gig. And I would have pissed the guy off. But you know what? In retrospect, the guy that I was going to leave, it's not like he was, I mean, I like him, you know, and we had a good times touring together and stuff, but it's not like he didn't then later on actually get other guitar players to do other projects, you know, when he wanted to go a little different direction, you know, all of a sudden I hear someone else is involved, like doing, you know, they do that. Like, this is what employers do. Oh, for this tour, we're going to get this guy. That kind of stuff happened, you know? So it's like, I was being loyal for no, I mean, I should have, like, even he begrudgingly, had I left 2 weeks before the tour, if I'd said I'm joining Nine Inch Nails, you know, I think he would have done it. And known in the back of his mind that it was the right thing to do for me, right? So I have no idea how close, like, had I said that, had I said, okay, I'll do it, you know, as long as you guys will commit to giving me, like, you know, if you fire me, you owe me 2 months severance pay or something, or whatever had I done, if that still would have turned out the way, maybe they still would have got a call about Aaron North or whatever, you know, 3 days later, and then on the sly had him come in, and then, you know, probably, but maybe not. Had I just committed that day, maybe it would have been like, okay, let's go full speed into rehearsing. Let's do this. You're our guy, you know? Yeah. So anyway, that's what happened. And you know, I have nothing but, he sent me a very nice email the next week when he said, I remember he said, it pains me to say this, but I've found a guitar player that we're going to use for the upcoming tour. And he said something very, you know, I thought you were, you know, an excellent musician, and you know, that kind of thing. You know, it's just really cool. And I sent him back an email and I said, I wish you all the luck in the world. The new record's amazing, and I hope you guys have an awesome tour. Maybe we can see each other down the road at some point. And he wrote me back, and he said, I could probably find it because I still have all my emails, but he said, it's rare in this business to find somebody that's musically talented and also a genuinely, like, good person, something like that, you know. And he said, you are those things, you know, and you know, thank you so much for being understanding. Something that was my interaction with Trent, you know. It was really good. Somebody was saying that this guitar player that from what's the band? Oh God, I can't believe I know this fella, Richard from I'm forgetting his band name, but anyway, the guitar player that was in Nine Inch Nails in the early, Richard Patrick, sorry, tells horror stories about playing Trent's guitars. Yeah, but you know, that was younger days, and, you know, Trent's sober now and stuff. I'm not saying that, you know, I don't know, but I had a great interaction with him, and he seemed like very healthy to me, like in a good place. So, and I'm not unfamiliar with dealing with rock star personalities, you know, and how to navigate those waters, you know. Sometimes, you know, that's a comfortable thing for me. I've been with some of the most, you know, maybe some might argue difficult, or, you know, whatever, legendary personalities, you know, out there, and been able to navigate those waters and been okay with it, you know. Having said that, I don't really relish the thought of doing a hell of a lot more of, like, anybody that's really out of control, like that kind of thing at my age. I'm just like a little bit beyond that. But Trent seemed like I had this great rapport with him on a musical level, and I felt like, you know, like, I really appreciated I always okay, here's one thing that he said in rehearsal, and thank you, Dennis, for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dennis Latimer. One thing he said, and this is great. Alessandro was playing something on keys. He stopped the band. We all stopped playing, and he goes, "What are you playing? Like, what's that sound?" And he played it, and it was cool, like whatever it was. But he goes, "I don't like the sound." He goes, "It's not special enough," or the part or something. Whether it was the tone or the part, I can't remember. But he said, don't just play to fill space or just play to play. He goes, everything that's going on at any time always has to be important, be special. So if you're going to make a noise, make sure it's contributing, like, in a very special way to the song. I've always retained that little piece of, you know, that where it's like, don't just play extraneous stuff. It muddies up things. It's pointless, you know. Space is good, like all that thing, you know. The notes you don't play are as important as the ones you do, that kind of stuff, you know. And little things like that were so cool. So yeah, Dennis, here you are. So I haven't been there for them all, but I've learned so much. Thanks, man. I learn from you guys too every week. every week. Anyways, that's that crazy story. Thanks for putting up with that. It always ends up going for a long time if I tell the whole thing. Do you think there's a recording? No. We were just in a little rehearsal studio in Hollywood. Just, playing through the PA. But it's recorded in my memory. So, yeah, Damien, thanks, man. Yeah, I feel it's important to share, because I had good mentors when I was a kid, and people that really had a big impact on the way that I, turned out, I guess. So, anyways, I'd love to watch an interview with you. Oh, I'd love to watch this actually too, or do this with Alan Johannes talking about tones on Chris Cornell, them Crooked Vultures 11. I should ask him if he would ever like to do my Sunday show. He hosted a show for Daddario, I think, wasn't it? I think that was similar to like what I do, where he would interview guitar players and stuff. Maybe he'd be down. That's a good idea. He's amazing, man. He's so cool. I ran across him randomly on the street a little while ago. He was playing a gig at the bowling alley in Highland Park, which I like to hang out at sometimes. So it's not just a bowling alley. It's a really cool bar and club. And there's like it's not really a club, but there's like it's very low key, but there's a room where bands play in this bowling alley in Highland Park. And he had a solo gig in there. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea. I'm walking down the street. Somebody recognized me as I'm walking by. And they said, "Pete, are you coming in to see the show?" And I was like, "What show? What's going on?" I was actually going to another like bar down the street to just grab a drink. By myself, and I had no idea. It's like 4 doors down from there. And the guy goes, "Alan's playing, Alan Johannes, and I was like, "No way." I was like, "Is he here? Like, where?" And they pointed to him. Of course, everybody's in masks still. It's a little while ago. And he's standing right there on the sidewalk. And I go over and I'm like, "Dude." And I'm like, "I had no idea you were playing." And I went in and it was amazing. He killed it. It was just a great solo show. So if he ever plays, like, go see him, it's so great. His right hand is amazing. His finger picking stuff that he does is so cool. So do you still use your Head Rush pedal board? Love Rush the Head. I haven't for a while, but I think they make good stuff, I still have it. It's here. Tim Pierce and others seem to have ODR1 as staple on their board. That's actually, I forgot to mention that. I put that on my board. So I have the Nobles, I have the Wampler version called the Bell, I think. The little green one, little mini pedal. And I put that on because it does a great ampy, kind of stonesy overdrive, which I need for something. And so, yeah, right now on my board, I've got the Archer, the Bell. I think it's called the Bell, the little green one. I can't see the writing on it right now because it's buried under. And then I've got the Gladio. So those 3 pedals for some alternate, solo boosts as well as alternate drive sounds on channel 1 of my amp. Yeah. I'm just going to check my phone really quick here and see if there's any updates about. Everything looks okay. That must be in my session still. Okay. What else we got here? Have you seen the David Phillips video playing a Hendrix Strat that didn't belong to Hendrix? No, I haven't. What's that? Was it just like somebody thought they had one and then they found out it wasn't? Would you be willing to briefly demonstrate your Alex Lifeson tremolo bar technique used for vibrato? I don't really know that it's that special. We play the Alex Lifeson chord. I don't know how to get that. I can't make my screen go any lower, so. All I do is really just shake the bar, up and down. So instead of going just down or just up, I'm going up and down, right? So that's it. The Alex Lifeson chord. He's got more than one chord. I want to have him on my show, but I've run into nothing but roadblocks, like trying to get in touch with him somehow. So if anybody knows Alex Lifeson, perhaps he's watching this. Steven says, curious what your stage attire would have been with Nine Inch Nails. You know, dude, I don't know. That was the main thing, was maybe, you know, with Aaron, I know he was like super flamboyant on stage. He's the guy that, like, if you've never seen the video, there's a video of like the House of Blues somewhere where he, you know how they have the guitars on the walls and the cases? He was in a band called the Icarus Line, and mid set, he smashed one of those cases. There's a Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar in there. So they're like playing, and he runs up and he smashes it with another guitar or something to take the guitar out and play it. He's kind of crazy, right? Like that energy. And you know, he gets tackled by security, you know, but that was like, he was known for that kind of thing. I mean, when I saw him with Nine Inch Nails, he definitely had that, you know, they wanted that element. A lot of stuff's on track. It's like, you know, there's not, you know, I mean, it's like the guitar accuracy element, I think is, you know, okay, that's one thing, but there's an element of chaos, especially back then with the music, that is important to Nine Inch Nails, I think. Like, you know, like that element of like destroying things and stuff was a big part of the show, right? So Trent did it, and Aaron would like smash his guitar on the third. He'd like, you know, knock over his speaker cabinet or something on the third song. What do you do then? I was always like, well, what's he gonna do now? You know, but that was a big part of the band. He was kind of crazy, you know, and I think they like that. That's hard to put a price on, or like, you know, there's not a lot of people that can do that. But their show, I mean, by that point, the band had evolved to, you know, where it was getting, to me, musically really interesting. And like Trent just has a really interesting musical mind. And the show was unlike anything I'd seen, because I did go to the tour and see them play with him. And they had, I remember it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like this. There was a screen in front of the band that was translucent with lights, you know, light panel kind of screen, and then one in the back. And they played one song, I remember, where the one would come down in front of the band sometimes and display things. Or, you know, I remember once it was all this red. It looked like rain, but it was red. And on the front, and then in the back. And from the audience perspective, it looked like 3D. It was like, that looks like nothing I've ever seen with a rock band before, with the band in the middle. And it just looked like this kind of red rain coming down. It was like unbelievable looking. So, you know, everything about that show is highly, I mean, Trent he's, you know, pretty visionary, you know, I think. So, anyways, I think he, you know, he just wants that wild element in the band. So, you know, maybe it was the right decision to go with him. I don't know. He was only there for a tour. I mean, Robin is really the guitar player in Nine Inch Nails. It's like he's the guy, you know. He's been there forever, and he seems like that's his rightful place. He's the he's the one member that's been there for most of the time besides Trent, right? So, yeah. Nathan says that Alex Lifeson chord, what's that? The F sharp 11 used in a Wolfgang Van Halen song. That's interesting. I gotta listen to that. I really like that song. That's the first song on the record, right? That's a great song. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got to split pretty soon, but take a few more here for the next 10 minutes. How was it hanging with Al Estrada? Oh, Al's great. He's super cool. He's a very nice guy, you know, and super talented. Yeah, I like Al a lot. Let's see. Did you see the Music Rising auction with U2's The Edge? I didn't. What's that all about? Is it guitars and things or other things? Have you been? Oh, yeah. We should talk about this. Have you been through Get Back? And if so, thoughts? So, what did everybody think of that's seen it? I mean, I absolutely loved it. It's like getting to be a fly on the wall and see what it would have been like to be in the Beatles, you know, which is just like unbelievable. I mean, I got a whole new appreciation for Lennon. Little like, I mean, he was great, and it's like, you know, you gotta be like, keep your mind on like what period of time this was. But I was sort of like, I don't want to say disappointed, but like with George, you know, his contributions are massive, obviously, and he was obviously just in a slightly strange headspace at that time to be in there. Also impressed too that even in the space he was in, and they went through those times where he actually, ends up splitting and stuff like that for a bit, and then comes back. That he was able to kind of, even through his frustration, he was professional. They were also professional, like, while also being incredibly goofy, like never stop screwing around, but they were also, like, I thought there was going to be a little more dysfunction. They didn't really strike me as dysfunctional. Like they like got in there, did the work, especially like Ringo, just like, maybe Lennon was, who knows what he was using or doing it during the time, but he was pretty like together. He just showed up late sometimes and then was a little glassy eyed sometimes, but he was very like on it, nodded off at one point, I remember. But it's not like they were not playing good or singing good or something, they were pretty together and like hardworking and polite, nice to the people around them. It seemed like it was a nice environment in there, relaxed, very, kind of, and then silly too. Like, so that was the one thing that I really enjoyed about it, was how goofy they were. How Lennon would like take off and go on some tangent of singing in a silly voice or something, or, doing his thing. And Paul would just kind of like, it never seemed to, I thought that stuff might bother Paul or something, or that we might see that where he's like, can we get down to work? Which he did a couple times. He's like, all right, pull it together, Lennon. But he was like saying it, laughing, smiling. It always seemed like, he was definitely like the ringleader at that point and driving the ship. Everybody seemed pretty okay with that, although there's a little tension about, the back and forth. But it was so like how, I don't know, like basically the vibes were pretty good. Like, it didn't seem like there was a lot of begrudging, like, like, oh, we're going to break up. And like, it's like, no, we're going to, like, this is just how life is. And maybe this is run its course kind of vibe, and we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be great, and then we're gonna go explore our other things and go on our separate ways, and that's okay, because that's the vibe, it seemed like, where they were all okay with it, and like would stay friends or whatever. And then I think it was kind of the stuff in the press. It was funny too how they were reading the stories in the press daily about the drama the press would print about them, and they would like kind of laugh and talk about, that they'd be reading these stories. But evidently after, when the band broke up, from what I understand, maybe that stuff, now you don't have each other to bounce off of, the stories that were coming out, right, in the news and stuff. And the press would maybe have some role in pitting some anger or frustration after post-breakup, between Paul and John and that kind of thing. But I think a lot more was made of it than actually there ever was, it seems. At the end of the day, they were all friends, and it's just a shame that they were never able to. How cool would it have been? How they able to, 1981, and John not, the tragedy. It's just like, what would have happened? Like, I don't know. This would have been the coolest thing ever. It's kind of interesting because, they did get together and do that anthology, like in the early 90s, right? Where they got together and did those 2 sort of new Beatles songs, which are pretty cool. If you haven't listened to those in a while, a lot of people probably forgot they even did that, but it was kind of neat that they got together and used those recordings of John, like on a cassette or something they had, and then they built songs around it with the 3 of them. That's pretty neat that they got together and did that before George passed away. I kind of like watching Get Back made me want to go back and watch the anthology videos again and stuff, because it was similar. It was like a special over a few days, right? Wasn't it? I think it's been so long. It was like like I remember like having a little TV in the house that I was renting at the time. I guess it was 95 when that came out, because I remember the house I was in and where I was living and stuff like that. I was living in Pasadena. Anyways. Oh, yeah. What else we got here? SD Design. Sorry, man, I had to start early today, so this is almost the end. I got to leave in like 5 minutes, but I'm sorry I started early, and but at least you're here for a few minutes. Thanks for showing up. The 200th episode. Yeah. Would you say that Get Back is how a band should work 101? In many ways. I mean, it seemed to me to be the one thing is that they were always, Paul was constantly writing and playing, and I liked how they would go home at night and then go, okay, what's your song for today? Like they almost had like homework assignments, bring in a new song tomorrow or whatever. And remember at one point, John's like, okay, we've played all mine, all 2 of them. Let's do one of yours to Paul or whatever. you know. And it was kind of cute how they like, it was almost like school assignments, you know, that they would like, okay, go home and write and then bring it in. George would be kind of excited and brought in I, Me, Mine, stuff like that. And, you know, they would work through it. And it was neat, you know, just the constantly playing and getting together and playing. And then also them talking about being together, how if they're not together, it changes the kind of the dynamic and the energy. Like that's kind of the problem now, is we're just like, for whatever reason, it wasn't like begrudging. It was like, yeah, we're just not together. Like, I mean, John was kind of hanging with Yoko and doing his thing, and she made him happy. And it was like, Paul was just sort of like, well, like almost like, I don't have a problem with that. It's not like, you know, it's just like kind of what it is. You know, this is the situation. So we're not going to be quite the same band as we were. And that's fine moving forward, I guess, you know. Interesting. What are your thoughts on Steve Stevens' style and tone? Steve has a great ear for tone as well as parts. And, you know, his influences are so varied. You know, he's not only got the, you know, Jimmy Page, Eddie Van Halen, like, because there's that, but then also he's a big prog fan. He loves Yes. You know, I think King Crimson, and he loved that music. So he's a real big Steve Howe guy. And also then you bring in the Paco de Lucia, or like the flamenco aspect of his, you know, so here now you've got a really interesting musician, right? Putting all that together with kind of in a rock, you know, his solo album inspired me to make Guitar Nerd, honestly. And then, you know, we got to be friends. He actually ended up playing bass on the record, which was amazing. But yeah, he's a one of a kind. You know, he's such a unique musician, and his, you know, he maybe doesn't get his due as far as credit when it comes to what an impact he had on Billy Idol's career, because, you know, like Billy would not have, there'd be no Flesh for Fantasy or you know, Eyes Without a Face, like Rebel Yell. I mean, the crazy intro with the way he plays that, you know, and the hooks, you know, White Wedding. You know, with the droney, you know, the two notes on top and the bass line moving, that whole thing. I mean, those little signature things, that's so hooky and amazing. And that's Steve, you know, it's like he is the Billy Idol sound is really the Steve Stevens and Billy Idol sound in my mind. With the, you know, there's no way to separate the two, you know. So, you know, there you go. As much as, you know, Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth, you know, they had a signature sound. Obviously, the sound changed when Sammy got involved, you know. So there you go, you know, that chemistry, you know, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page. It's like Billy Idol and Steve Stevens. You know, it could have been a band name. Billy's a pretty strong personality, so it's cool it was Billy Idol, and, you know, but anyways, yeah, you can't discount Steve's, you know, he's 50% of the sound to me. Also, you know, if you guys listen to, like, on my solo album on Pete Thorn 2, if you listen to the song All Is Not Lost, you hear the keys at the beginning, that's Steve. Or there's some stuff going on, some programming in the middle. You're going to hear like a distinctly Steve Stevens, you know, like it sounds like he puts his stamp on things when he comes in, and it's great. You know, it's like, yes, more of that, please. You know, so cool. Yeah. SMY Tree, Semi Tree. Sorry, don't know if that's how you say your name or not. Your dedication to this community is appreciated. Thanks, man. Thanks for doing a show despite having to jam in an hour. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I should go. It's noon, and yeah, I got a gig that I got to run to. So sorry for those that just joined and stuff. I know it was a little early this week, but same time, same place. Different time. Sorry, next week, same place. The usual time, around 11:30 next week. I will be here, but for now, I'm going to run, grab some lunch, and get over to the studio and do some jamming. So everybody, thanks so much for always being here. 200 episodes. Wow. What could I do without y'all? I would be nothing. You're the best. And have a great week. Ben Coombs, I'm sure, has a show tonight, right, Ben? So Ben says, just a reminder, I have Charles 75N on with me tonight. Ben Coombs, check it out. Check it out. He's 19 subs away from 3,600. Get him to 3,620 tonight. Come on, Ben. And thanks for being here, Ben. All right, you guys. Take care. Have a great week.